What's up everyone? It's been a while, but I'm back and we got the Digitakt 2. Here it is. Oh wait. Here it is. And it's beautiful. It's nice. It looks almost identical to the original one, unless you pay attention to some of the details. So I really love it. Of course, I'm a big fan of the Digitakt 1. How can I not be a big fan of this one? In this video, I'm going to go over my favorite new features of the Digitakt 2, some thoughts about it, and maybe some improvements that I would like to see. I'm going to do a little sample and jam segment video thing, where I record a bunch of samples in a very cool place, which is a former Psychiatric Institute, and then I record a jam that I created with those samples. So before we continue, I just want to mention that because of the Digitakt 2 release, the Digitakt 1 course that I created is now heavily discounted for the time being to celebrate the Digitakt 2. So if you're in the market for a second-hand original Digitakt, you can get the perfect course to go with it for less as well. Go to davemech.live/shop and you will find the complete bundle right there. Without further ado, let's go. I'm going to a pretty interesting building. It's called the Pieter Baan Centrum, and it's a former Psychiatric Institute. It has these nice halls and huge reverbs. I found a pretty old open piano. Just started recording. Okay, so I recorded a bunch of samples and I loaded them into this project. And the first thing that we immediately will see is that we have now 8 banks of sample slots, which is awesome. And I loaded these bunch of samples. Is it the trumpet? Is it the door? Is it me yawning? And the cool thing is, of course, that we can now load 1016 samples into the a project and up to 400 MB. And then, of course, we also got a 20 gigabytes plus drive, which is, yeah, a lot. Next up is that we have a bunch of new machines, notably the stretch machine, and we also have filter machines. So you can press Func plus source to go to the machine selection, and I press left and right. And on the filter page, you can see that we have, by default, a new multimode filter with a morphing type. So it goes from low pass through band pass with resonance, which is great, to high pass. This is also fun to modulate. You can also see that we now have a dedicated effects button where we have our sound effects with a new chorus. Nice. And bit reduction, overdrive, sample rate reduction, and the routing for sample rate reduction on one page, which is great. And if we go to sound effects, we have now 3 pages which we can scroll through like this, which is nice. You can also still do this the old way. But of course, we don't have the dedicated button for delay and reverb anymore, which is a slight downside, but it's manageable. I kind of had to get used to it a little bit, but now I am. It's not that much slower than it was before. It's just go to the reverb instead of immediately. It's not that big a deal. Also, if you want, you can go to settings, personalize, and you can turn on remember subpage. This is a thing that I requested a long time ago for the original Digitakt and the Digitone, because during a live performance I wanted to switch between having the filter, the bass width filter on one page, and then switch to the reverb and back to the bass width filter instead of it reverting back to the multimode filter every time. It's quite nice. And then I realized I like the original way. Eventually I settled with the original way, where I just have to always have the same amount of presses to go somewhere. Yeah, you have other interesting things here as well. So the personalized menu is also new. I hope they will add more stuff, because it's nice to have some ways to customize how the Digitakt is operating. I really like that. So regarding the up and down keys for the selection of effects, You can turn this off if you don't like it to be like the original Digitakt where it selects the keyboard octave. Currently, if you set it to navigation, which is the default, you always switch between pages. There's no keyboard octave changes. When I go to keyboard mode, same thing, right? But we can press keyboard button and then change octaves, which is a great implementation. So I'm going to leave it like this. So dedicated keyboard button here, track button here. Personally, I wish the track button was still there. I feel I'm using the track and the funk keys so much. Those are, to me, the primary buttons that I use with my left hand to copy paste stuff, to control all and revert back and that sort of thing. And now there's this button in between. In terms of usability, I would say the track button beneath the function button is actually more logical to me. But hey, I'll get used to it. Muscle memory and all. Let's see if I can change some of this filtering. Multimode filter. I really love the low pass filter 4. I think it's similar to the one in Digitone. It's really nice. It sounds great. It's just something very sweet about it. It's not as resonant as the other, as the morphing multimode filter. Very nice. I really like the stretch machine. The new filters are really cool. More sample slots, more. Everything is more. We also have more pages, right? We have now 8 pages instead of 4, which is really great. And yeah, you would think, oh man, scrolling through that will be a chore, but it's actually not, because we can press and hold page in grid recording mode and choose pages like this. And we can also choose to loop pages like so. It's very clever design. I really like it. It's a great user interface design, right? So this is really great. There's one little quirk where if I have one track that has, for instance, 3 pages and another has 8 pages, and I start looping that 8th page, it might go out of sync, which is a bit weird. And that keeps me from using it in a live situation, because it can, the tracks can really go out of sync. So it would be nice if it would be, if there was an update, maybe even in the personalized menu, I guess, because it does maybe have some happy accidents that can occur when you have something go out of sync. So it can be nice in the creation process, but during a live situation, I wouldn't want to have that. So in the personalized menu, we could maybe have one that says something like page loop sync or something, where when I start looping a page, that it keeps everything in sync. You can set conditions, but hey, we now have 3 options. What the heck? Oh yeah, of course we do. We have a dedicated probability button now, which can also set the percentage of chance that this will trigger or not. However, it's now a separate parameter. We now also have a condition as a separate thing with a lot more options, which is great. We also have a last and non-last thing, which is great. So this will trigger once you trigger the next pattern. This will trigger once and then stop. Which is pretty nice. And this will always trigger except for the last time before you move to the next pattern. And this is great for transitional sounds, for instance. And then we have conditionals and also non-conditionals. Whoa, yeah. So here we can set, if we set this to 2, 3, non-2, 3, it will play the first time and the third time, and the second time it will not play, which is pretty interesting. And I already started using it quite a lot, more than I thought I would actually. Before I would use a trick where I put a trigger behind it and microtime it all the way to the left, and then set a condition to make that one trigger not trigger a certain amount of time. But this is much nicer, of course. And then, of course, we also have fill and non-fill for our fill functionality, right? Also a separate function. So you can create some pretty incredible complexity with this. If you really want to, you could set a condition, have that condition only trigger a certain amount of percentage of the time while we are in fill mode, for instance. Really what you could do if you really wanted to, you could almost create a completely new, different track on top of another track. If you think about it, certainly with the amount of tracks that we now have, the 16 audio tracks. Another cool thing that I want to show you is comb filter. So let's have a look at that. It's pretty nice. Nice to create percussion with. Like so. It's pretty cool. And then if you start modulating this, pretty nice, eh? This sort of sound. See, so you can take this to a lot of different places. And of course, there's nothing stopping you from resampling this. You can also choose between threshold arm, right? Which we always had, but we can also set this to play, and then we'll start sampling when you press play, which is pretty clever. And we can set a dedicated length. We can also see how many minutes that is in the current tempo that we are recording at, which is also very handy. And we can set it to max, and we can see that it's now 66 seconds of recording time instead of 33, which is also quite nice. You can bring much longer samples onto the plus drive by just transferring them into Digitakt. We also have a track setup menu like we have on Syntakt and Digitone already, which is great because here we can, on a track level, we can set portamento, which is also new for the Digitakt. We can change the velocity to volume curve, which is very nice. Pitch bend depth, default octave for the preset that we are working with. Legato mode, and we have finally these modulation matrices. And especially velocity mod is very nice because we can use that within the Digitakt. But we also have these for MIDI loopback control. When we have a MIDI track, we can modulate or change the modulation wheel, breath control, aftertouch, pitch, bend, and velocity, and set up all these parameters. It's a macro control, right? So we can change 4 parameters at once with one control. Velocity mod is interesting. Set this up to filter, low-pass filter, frequency. There you go. Now I have this macro control. And you can see it jump up because of the velocity of this trigger. So if I change the velocity here, the filter will be more closed. See? So that's really nice. Now, why this is even nicer is when I press funk and up and down, we have trig modes now. So we can choose tracks, velocity, re-triggers. And velocity. And that's the nice one for this, which will now open the filter up. And if you record this into the sequencer, you get nice modulation for up to 4 parameters. So that's definitely a very nice function. And we also have the preset pool. I only have 3 presets now in the preset pool currently, but you can trigger up to 16 presets at the same time and scroll through 8 pages of 16 presets. We have a choice of up to 128 presets that we can load in the preset pool. Pretty easy to, in a live situation, to go to the preset pool, for instance, with the trick mode, and have this transitional sound play while we switch to another pattern. Pretty interesting, right? So let's talk about, we press the preset button, which is, it's now called presets, not sounds like on the old Digitakt, because we can also save MIDI presets, which is nice, not just sounds. We have a dedicated menu for the pool, which is quite nice. We can load, save, and manage preset, and we also have proper kit functionality right now. So we can save and load and manage our kits on the plus drive. A kit is always linked to its pattern. There's no way to have one pattern use a different kit if you want, which is still the preferred way of working, in my opinion, because otherwise it would add another layer of complexity. But we can actually go into kit perform mode, and now it will use the current active kit, keep that active while I change to another preset. It's gonna sound a bit wonky because this is a completely different pattern. Right? Still that same kit, but if I go out of the perform mode, it will revert back to that pattern's kit. Really cool implementation of kits, because that way you can go into performance mode, move across different patterns while changing knobs without any jumps in the values that you've changed, which is pretty cool. And then whenever you want, you can revert back to the original pattern's kit to have that jump in parameters to create a drop or a transition or whatever. And yes, temporary save still works. So that means that we have another layer of revert to a saved state. We have the temporary save, temporary save, and then revert back to the reload pattern from temporary save. We have performance mode, and then going out of performance mode to revert back to a pattern's original kit. And we can copy a pattern, of course, and then paste over the pattern to have another layer of reverting back, which is all quite usable, very usable in a live situation. I do want to touch upon a couple of other very cool things, is that we have a Ctrl-Alt-Config menu where we can exclude tracks from being influenced by Ctrl-Alt functionality, where we press track and change the parameter, and it will change the parameter on all the tracks. We can exclude some of those now, which is great. It's really, really nice. So we can have a very dedicated, very specific kind of Ctrl-Alt that only works on a few tracks, for instance, maybe a synth-related group of tracks where we can open it and close the filter at the same time and that sort of thing. It's really cool. And then we also have a compressor routing menu where we can also go down, just so you know, and exclude tracks or include tracks to be routed through the master compressor, including the input and the effects, sound effects. I do hope they will split the sound effects from being able to route in or out of the compressor. So I would love to have the reverb going through the compressor, but the delay maybe not, right? That will be very nice. Hopefully they can split that. Then we have so if we go to the compressor here, we can choose what sidechain source to choose. So everything routed to the compressor, everything that's not routed through the compressor, and individual tracks. Yeah. And also the input, which is great. And so if I have a kick on track 1, for instance, I can choose a sidechain source track 1, but exclude the kick from going through that compressor in this menu, right? So that's much better than what it was in the original Digitakt, where that was not possible. When you sidechain using the kick would also be compressed. That's not really what you want. So this is a great implementation. I really like it. Then we also have Euclidean mode, which is great. I'm not going to cover the entire workings of the Euclidean mode, but it's it's really nice. So one little extra thing that I really like is that we can change mute modes now with func plus track instead of func plus bank. Toggle between pattern mutes and global mutes. But if you're in one of these modes, you can also prepare mutes like so. And then when you let go of func, it mutes. And the other way around works as well. Nice and orange. Bloop. And then we're back. Very cool. So these are pretty much my favorite new things about the Digitakt 2, and I'm really in love with this thing already. This is definitely gonna be my main thing for my own live sets for the coming years, because I really, really like it. There's a couple of things that I really would like to see. Most obvious thing to me was that this button now is called mod instead of LFO, which to me means that can we wish for modulation machines? I guess we can, because we also have filter machines. So to me, it seems quite obvious that we might see that. Maybe we can choose between envelopes and a random source and an LFO and that sort of thing. So then that whole modular workflow that they advertised with will be even more true. Another thing that I would really love to see is being able to use LFOs across tracks. So we can dedicate 8 tracks as LFOs to modulate one track, for instance. That would be really cool. Or maybe we can route MIDI internally. That would also be nice. So just to add 2 MIDI tracks and use those LFOs to, any destination within Digitakt would be cool without using MIDI loop. That way you can also have macro controls, right? So that would be very nice to have. Who knows? Then, we don't have an FX track like on the Syntakt. I think, I don't know, maybe it will happen. I really hope it will happen, but maybe it's a bit too much to ask. It might be a little bit weird in terms of, user interface, because it's not completely the same like on the Syntakt. But I would love to be able to modulate the delay, reverb, and chorus parameters. That would be really cool. While we're on the wishing list of things, maybe some more effects, sound effects would be nice. Maybe a dedicated little reverb and delay for each track. Just maybe a simplified version, but just a little bit. That would be nice. I don't know if this is all possible. I'm just wishing stuff. And like I said before, being able to sum a sample to mono, or have maybe on the second amp page have a crossover frequency from which it will be modified. That would be very nice. The most important thing to me would be a tool by Electron where you can really manage your samples and your patterns and your projects and move things from one project to another, and where the samples are taken with the pattern or kits and that sort of thing. That would be really great. And also being able to restructure the sample slots. Now we have 8 banks. There should be a way to be able to manage that properly, because then we can keep things nice and tidy, right? Those are my things. So let's now move on to my favorite part, my personal favorite part, because then I get to play with this thing. Is I'm gonna show you a little jam that I recorded using the samples that I recorded that you saw before. So thank you for watching, and enjoy the Digitakt 2 and enjoy the jam. And if you liked this video, subscribe, hit the bell notification, maybe go to my website and look through my preset packs, sample packs. I also have courses like I mentioned before if you are interested. Bye-bye.